Oh, hey everybody. Today is Wednesday, May 24th, 2023, 11:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Clearwater, Florida, United States of America. This is going to be really bad. I apologize. I'm the worst photographer in the world, and on top of that, I have a cheap camera. Or maybe it's the photographer. I don't know. But that's the moon. I'm looking at my screen. It doesn't look anything like it looks on the screen. Okay? It's a fingernail moon. So why is it all blurry? Like, that's what I mean. I see other pictures that other people take, and I'm like, how did you do that? My pictures are always terrible. I mean, it looks like an orb, okay, in this on my screen, but in the sky it looks like a fingernail, a fat fingernail, not a skinny fingernail. So whatever phase that is. Anyway, okay. So me and my friend Jorge fight about the moon all the time. So unfortunately, because of all this unbelievable amount of light pollution, I mean, this is the darkest spot I could find, and it's not dark, but at least the parking lot that I'm in doesn't have any light. I've got a bright spotlight from that building pointed right at me from the other side of the road, but this exact parking lot has no lights, and there's no light between my camera and the moon. I mean, it's just unbelievable how hard it was to find a spot that meets this ridiculously minimum of light pollution requirement. I mean, anyway, so I'm gonna walk, I guess. I parked my car, it's running, but I locked it, so nobody can come and jump in it and take off. So, all right. So I'm just gonna, let's see, what does it say? Okay, Wi-Fi disconnected. That's because I'm walking away from the car. All right. So, well, that makes no sense. How could I have? How could I be connected to a Wi-Fi out here? I don't know. I don't know. I must have connected to some Wi-Fi that had no security set up on it. Anyway, but why would it connect automatically? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why it said Wi-Fi disconnected. I definitely was not connected to any Wi-Fi. Okay, so I know you're not going to be able to see it because I'm such a terrible photographer, and or I have such a lame-o cheap camera. I mean, this was an expensive phone. I don't know how I can have a lame-o cheap camera. So regardless, I'm just going to describe what I see with my own eyes. And it's what I see every time I observe a fingernail moon. Okay? So, I don't know. I'm not an astronomer, and if I were, I would just be telling you what I was taught in school. So I'm just going to tell you what I see. Okay? I see, as I mentioned, the fingernail moon, but that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is the portion of the moon that is shaded. It looks like a semi-transparent disk in front of the moon that's blocking part of the moon. And the reason I'm saying disk is because on the outer edge, it kind of glows. I don't think a sphere, I don't think if two spheres were next to each other, anything's possible. I mean, light, oh, now there's a cloud in front of the moon. But I mean, light can play a lot of tricks, you know, on your eyes. And your eyes, it's completely gone because of the clouds. Anyway, so, you know, you can't say that just because something looks like something that therefore you understand it or you know what you're seeing. You don't know what you're seeing, you know, all the time. Frequently you don't, you know, especially when things are really far away, especially when there's a lot of controversy involved, because controversy implies emotion. And we can't forget that our eyes are not what sees. What sees are our minds, our brains. The eyes just provide the image or the imagery, not even the image really. They provide the imagery, the data, you know, brightness, color, location, all that stuff to the brain, and then the brain interprets the data. And then, like the eyes provide an image that's upside down, for example. Everybody knows that, right? The image that the mind gets from the eyes is upside down, and the mind auto-corrects the image. So everything is interpretation. Everything is interpretive. What we see, what we hear, what we think, what we feel, it's all interpreted. Like, I'm a Christian, so if get 5 people to read a Bible verse, as long as people aren't being coerced and pressured to interpret it a certain way, which they often are, if you go to any given church, because any given church has its own doctrine, and so there's kind of like an implied or implicit coercion to interpret it according to the doctrine of whatever church you go to, right? Like, it's completely gone now, the clouds. So, there's a lot of controversy over this thing. If you say that, if you stray away from the conventional narrative about what you're seeing in the sky, you're going to be harassed. You might be censored. You're going to be socially ostracized, and if they can punish you in other ways, they will punish you in other ways. So, there's people that are fired over this stuff. Brian Mullins is famous guy, famous a flat earther, mechanical engineer from somewhere around Orlando, Florida, and he just disappeared one day, and everybody thought they got kidnapped and killed or whatever. No, he didn't get any of that. It's just his employer threatened him. They said, either you stop or we're going to, invalidate your licenses and you're not going to be able to work in this field anymore, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Now, do we know that's what happened? No, we don't really know. Maybe he did. Maybe he was kidnapped and killed. I don't know. Nobody knows. But the latest word on that was that he was threatened, and so he just deleted all of his videos and, went back to being a family man, and that's it. So, there's a lot of emotion in this. So people are incentivized to, through negative incentive, right, to follow the party line, to go with the prevailing narrative, which is the moon is being illuminated on one side by the sun, which is over the horizon, and the dark part of the moon is the shadow that's being cast by the earth with the sun behind it or whatever. I don't know how it all works, but some weird thing with spinning, wobbling orbs in space, flying around, spinning around, wobbling around, just kind of crazy stuff, when you got things moving in 14 different directions simultaneously, tilted, wobbling, spinning, flying, any creative, you just have to have a little bit of creativity. You could literally explain any phenomenon with that model because it's so complex. It's malleable to anything that anybody can observe or have a question about. And that's my opinion anyway. So that's why it quote unquote works. But it only works because it's so complex. It's like a good liar. A good liar only has to have a lie that is defensible to about 3 degrees of questioning. Because after people say, what about this? Oh, okay, well, what about this? Oh, okay, what about this? Then they just stop, right? You're not going to sit there and interrogate somebody, ask them a line of questioning that's 20 degrees of questioning deep. Who has the patience for that, Who has the mental ability for that? Very few people, ridiculously few. So even among the professionals, professionals don't even really care that much. It's like, if you can satisfy their questioning 3 degrees deep or 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees deep, well, you're good. You're good to go. And when the professionals become good to go, the public comes along with them as a bonus. The public are a foregone conclusion. They're a fait accompli. Once you persuade the professionals, that's it. You're done. You've got the public, right? Because the public aren't going to go against the professionals. So the real key for these people and these lies is the community of professionals. Everybody thinks, how are you going to trick millions of people? You don't have to trick millions of people. You just have to trick a couple thousand professionals You know, that's it. And all of the mob dynamics or the group dynamics that apply to any group or any mob apply to any group or any mob of professionals. There's no difference. They're people just like everybody else's people. So they respond to the same principles. There's a French guy, the same principles of a mob control or group control or group think or mass mind manipulation. They respond in the same way to the same strategies that any group of people do because they're humans, right? Their supposed, purported, reported superior intelligence has no effect in this context. It doesn't apply. It's not applicable. And in fact, they're even more vulnerable in some ways because of their pride and their ego. So when people have pride and ego, that's like an inflection point. That's like a pressure point or a point of manipulation. If you practice the craft in the Freemasons, it's called the craft. You don't walk in the door of a Freemason lodge and be told about the craft. But once you're in and you're game and you've gone a few levels up and blah blah blah, then they tell you about the craft. If you want to learn the craft, you can learn the craft, but it's like a whole other branch and it's like an advanced type thing. Anyway, it's basically witchcraft, all right? But they call it the craft. And these principles of mob and group manipulation is part of the dark arts because they're not talked about in public. They're not talked about in the educational institutions. They're dark. They're part of the underworld, right? There's no reason they couldn't be talked about elsewhere, but they're not because certain people don't want them to be common knowledge. So it's part of the dark arts of learning how to manipulate groups of people. So anyway, my interpretation, I'm just going by what my eyes see. I see fingernail moon. I see what appears to be a semi-translucent orb in front of it, blocking a portion of the moon. And like I said, the semi-translucent disc, orb, whatever you want, not an orb. I think I said orb. I meant to say disc. It's different than the sky. It's different than the night sky. It's very close, okay? The night sky is like a deep gray. This semi-translucent disc is also deep gray, but it's slightly lighter. And it has a rim of light around it. So if you're in a place somewhere where you have a better vision than I do, because mine is terrible with all this light pollution, I have been in better places than this, and it's to me, it was undeniable. What I'm describing to you right now, which I can see right now, but it's extremely faint. But in better conditions, it's undeniable. So I'm rambling, so thank you for watching. God bless you. Peace, blessings, and liberty to you and yours. Wednesday, May 24th, 2023, 11:58, 9, something like that, p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Clearwater, Florida, United States of America. Bye.